What's good, y'all? It's your boy DJ Fanatic at soundsforproducers.com. Definitely appreciate you joining me on this video. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that sub button. Click the bell as well so that way you get to see all the new videos that come up on the channels. That way you're alerted to see all the videos. This particular video basically is a breakdown of the mixing and mastering process of the beat that you saw probably in the last video. If you haven't checked that video out, please do. Is basically me making all of this within, I think it was like 45 minutes maybe. The mastering process didn't take too long, and my process actually is pretty straightforward. You should get some really good sounds quality out of it, but I'm just going to kind of run through real quick what I did. And with mastering, there's tons of different ways and different plugins you can do, and also you can just pay somebody if you can afford it. You can just pay somebody to mix your beats, but it's good to learn all that you can as a music producer, because you become like a jack of all trades. You have knowledge with mixing, you have knowledge with mastering and production, and you're a one-stop shop. So the more knowledge you have, basically the more money you can save and the more money you can make, because you can actually mix and master other producers' music and other artists' music. So anyway, and shout out to all the engineers out there. Engineers don't get much love, man, so shout out to y'all. So without further ado, this beat is actually made with a bunch of random sounds out of our loop packs, which will be links will be in the descriptions. The links will be in the description. Started out with a really cool loop, and I'm not going to break down the actual beat. Check out the last video for that, of me making it live. I'm actually gonna just hit play and let you hear what I did, so that way you can kind of vibe with it. So check it out. Came out nice. That beat is hard. If you're feeling the beat, make sure you put a thumbs up on this video, and if you're watching the video without subscribing, click that button, man. What are you waiting on? All right, so anyway, what I'm going to show you in this video is this process right here. So let's actually loop this part, the chorus, the part with most of the sounds in it, and go to our mixer. And what I'm going to do is kind of give you my mixing process and mastering process. As you can see what I use here, and there's different ways of doing this. You can use maximizer and fruity limiter. You don't have to use the isotope stuff, which sound excellent, and they give you a lot of great tools all in one. But I'm going to show you my process. First of all, when you're making a beat and you got a bunch of sounds, there's not much sounds in this one, which I'm happy, because I tend to go overboard with stuff and just have layers and layers of melodies and just overproduce it. And I say it several times in different videos, but make sure you don't overproduce a song, especially as for an artist. So with this particular beat, the first thing you want to do when you're mixing, I tend to mix while I add every sound. So I start out with a loop, and I'll route it to the mixer through the channel rack right here. And then what I'll do is add fruity parametric EQ2 and just kind of EQ the frequencies that I don't want in that particular sound. For each sound, I do that as I go. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So usually when you're mixing, You don't have to worry about working like that. Some producers don't even do effects, they'll just get the idea out, which I do recommend because you want to get that melody out of your head, that drum rhythm out of your head, that sample thing, whatever type of performance you did with samples out of your head, and then you worry about that stuff. So let's say you get, this whole part done right here. So let's say you get that done, right? And then the first thing you want to focus on is actually, let's say you have, all 10 sounds, and you want to, first thing you want to focus on, you can write this down, or one, is the levels, the volume adjustment for each sound. Focus on how loud you want this hi-hat, how loud you want that pad, how loud you want the second pluck, the first pluck, the lead, how loud you want the kick. Usually the kick and snare is loudest with a lot of urban and hip-hop music, obviously, because drums is like, I can really go into a really deep video, but drums basically comes from Africa, African tradition, and that's kind of why hip-hop, favors the drums. But I don't want to get too deep in this video. So anyway, so you want to focus on the levels first, the volume adjustments here, the faders of each sound, how loud you want it in the mix of all your elements. So once you get that done, then you can focus on, now it's an option, you can focus on either panning and stereo separation. I kind of use those hand in hand. Like what sound, stereo separation is basically how wide you want to sound. For instance, this pluck. And I turn that off. Big difference, right? So that pluck, I kind of wanted on both sides, like really wide, to kind of canvas the background, if you will. It's a very repetitive theme in the beat, and I wanted it to stand out on both sides. So stuff like that. So panning, you notice I didn't do much panning in this beat. I did pan the pluck. This one's wide. The lead kind of went straight in. And let me see what this lead was. It was actually the loop from one of our loop packs. So that particular sound, if you notice, it has a lot of movement from left to right. It's a ping pong delay with reverb, and I believe there is also, yes, halftime on it. So there's a lot going on, and I didn't really have to pan it because it's moving around left and right. The pluck, yeah, stereo separated. That one goes right. This pad, let's see what that was. I forgot what it was. Right, you can even look at the waveform. See how it's jumping back and forth left to right? So there's a lot of movement with that. So you got movement here, movement with the lead, movement with the pad, stereo separated and to the right. So with so much movement, you really don't need to pan everything because it's already moving by itself. A lot of sounds actually have a lot of movement. Depends on what plugin you're using or whatever. So when you get to the drums, let's just do that. Whatever. Go it. Jeez, I love my drums, man. I love drums that hit hard like that. So with the drums, some producers actually do a mix. I've seen a lot of platinum recording, Grammy winning producers do their technique. So a lot of them actually mix the drums by themselves, like separate from the sounds, and then bring in the sounds. I tend to mix my drums with the sounds. I like everything relative, but you can do either way. And if you mix the drums by themselves and then bring in the sounds, you can actually just make adjustments after that. Either way, sometimes if you go left, if a person goes right, you end up in the same direction. You ever been like, driving to work or driving to wherever your destination is, school, whatever, and you got somebody balling out like crazy, just driving really fast, and just, they see the light turn yellow, you speed right through it, through the red light. You've done it before. Well, anyway, and then, you're driving, you're watching them do all that. You catch the light, you staying at the red light, and then you end up right beside them at the next light. So it's kind of like that. It doesn't matter which method you choose, you end up in the same space. Now, I don't want to get philosophical in this video, but you get the idea. So, so once you got the levels all done, and the drums is the same thing, you can pan certain things that you want to do. I don't know what I did with this hi-hat. Look at that. See? I used Fruity Panomatic, and that was a loop as well from one of our loop packs. So I actually took the Fruity Panomatic and made it pan back and forth so I can have some movement with that high frequency. So the rest of the drums are pretty straightforward. The crash I did stereo separate. The 808s, you got to be careful with 808s. Notice I use I cut off some of the highs and use a distortion plugin and use Fruity Limiter. I basically side chained it to the 808, so that way see that? So that way it cuts through and real clean, because that kick is just crazy. And that kick actually is in our loop pack as well. It's in the bonus one shots. So I'm not sure which one, but pretty much all the kicks are just insane. Because definitely want to give you great stuff, great quality sounds for you to create your own productions and just stand out, man. So once you have the panning and stereo separation and the levels done for all the tracks, usually the third thing you might want to focus on is processing. EQ, reverb, delay, I don't know, halftime, or glitch 2, or shaper box, or whatever plugin you want to do. Every sound is unique, and if you want to just kind of mess around with plugins, Fruity, there's so many image line plugins you can just click on and just learn about. You have no idea what random processing can do to any of these sounds and really change it from what it was to what you never imagined it to be. So, and that is the key to being unique, especially, with loop packs and stuff. Pull up a plugin, plop it on there, and just mess around, turn knobs, push buttons. You come up with something crazy. And it happened to me tons of times. So that's some great advice in this video. Is processing. So usually EQ is the first thing I do for every sound, because I like to hone in exactly what I want for this particular beat, what frequencies I want. So once you got all that, and let's say it's sounding real nice, for this particular beat and some other beats, what I do is do a sound group, which is right here. I select that, and you just you right click on the channel that you name sound group. You select whatever sound you want, right click, and route it. So for instance, let's say I want to route this Vox lead. Let's say this is a new sound sound group, insert 15, right click, route to this track only. And that's what you would do. So you do that for all the sounds, and do that for all the drum sounds. And you can use some type of processor that's really good for compression, and also kind of smushing all the sounds together to give it more presence and more power, more energy. But you got to use it sparingly, because over compression can take out the life of a sound. And make sure you go on YouTube, since you're here already, search compression and dynamic range and learn about it. That way you can kind of understand visually, what these things do. Sausage Fattener is crazy. It's a really dope plugin. and I use it a lot on my sound and drum groups. Sound Goodizer is good too. It's basically the maximizer, and there's Sound Goodizer is a preset based plugin for image line that uses maximizers algorithms basically. So that one's really good too if you don't have extra stuff. But there's tons of them. You can just go down the list, man. Sometimes there's just too much that you end up not even using. So I don't want to tell you, oh, go buy this, you know. So yeah. So anyway, once you got everything in the groups, you can do that. What you're doing is just adding more energy into your master chain. So master, I usually use Neutron. And there's a little cheat code that you can do is the track assist. Basically it changes track assistant learning, engages track assistant learning in Neutron. So when you click this button, what it does, it decides on what type of effects or processing, you know, for this particular song. And it shows the equalizer, it chooses pre-nodes. Of course, you know, some producers and some engineers hate this button because it's kind of like based on an algorithm, you know, of whatever isotope used. It's a love-hate thing. I like it because I'm not really extremely techy when it comes to engineering music, and this is a really good tool for people that are producing and not really familiar with it, with engineering. So it chooses these things, and then you can make adjustments to it. So I highly recommend, though, Google, YouTube, whatever, equalizer, compressor, exciter, learn about these things, threshold, the attack of the compressor, the release, learn about the difference between dynamic mode, expand and compress, band shapes. I don't even know what Baxadol is, but you know, you can and learn about, you know, this is a full compressor that it's for the entire beat or whatever. See, check out the huge difference this made for me making those adjustments and using track assist. Check it out. Off. On. So after I use Neutron and make all my adjustments, sometimes I would do it more than once, because if I don't like the first one or the second one, I'll do it another time and then make my adjustments. So, you know, you can play around with that. But this is what I'm doing now. This is my mixing and mastering process. So that way you can make your beats sound good as well. And I have nothing to hide. I'm here for the producer community and definitely want you guys and gals to succeed with your music. So, and the next thing I do is isotope ozone 7. I'm actually thinking about upgrading to ozone 8 this weekend, but we'll see what that happens. So check it out. This is it with it on. And this is it with it off. Big difference, right? And I forgot to mention with Neutron and ozone 8, ozone 7, both of them actually, there's presets within these. So if you click on that, there's presets within each plugin. So it's a lot that you can do just with these suites. It's just, you can spend all day mastering a beat. I don't highly recommend it because, you know, you got other things to focus on. You got marketing and advertising, you got actually making the beat, you got life. So, you know, you can get really lost mastering this stuff because there's just so much. So with ozone 7, after Neutron, I usually choose these: equalizer, dynamics, vintage, tape, imager, and maximizer. You can always just experiment with other things, but to break down these real quick, EQ, you know what that is. It stands for equalizer. Dynamics is basically, it's a multi-band compressor, and what I'm doing is balancing out the frequencies of the particular beat. So check it out. I was just showing you that you can solo different frequencies in the beat and kind of isolate them and focus on them at a time. So you can do a lot of powerful stuff here. Vintage tape, you know, you got your input drive, you got your bias, harmonics, low emphasis, high emphasis. Also within that, you got a bunch of different presets you can load up. You know, imager, this is one of my favorites because you can take every frequency band, you can move these around and focus on a specific range of frequency and narrow it and widen it. And you know, you just do a lot of stuff. And the maximizer, man, they got all these different, you know, what do you call it, release controls, and you want to see which one sounds best, and then you can play around with the threshold and check out your you know, RMS output. So I don't want to get too deep into the mixing and mastering, but I wanted to just give you an overview of my process. And definitely shout out to BusyWorks Beats, man. They have a lot of great products for learning in-depth mixing and mastering. I don't want to go too deep as Game does at BusyWorks Beats. So shout out to him, one of my homies over there. So check him out for mixing and mastering courses that he does. Excellent work, extremely good work. And it's all make sure you tell him DJ Fanatic from Sounds for Producers told you about it. So he has great work with in-depth mixing and mastering, and I believe he uses the same plugins as well. So there you go. That's just a little overview. A, levels. B, panning and stereo separation. C is processing of each sound. D is usually me routing to a sound group and drum group and processing. And E is neutron and ozone. So that's pretty much what I do. Sometimes I'll switch up and do maximizer depending if, you know, on a particular beat, and I want to try something a little different to see if I get a better sound. But that's pretty much my mixing and mastering process. So again, it's DJ Fanatic Beats at soundsforproducers.com. If you'd like to subscribe, please hit that sub button. Click the bell as well so you get to see more videos and you're alerted to whenever I post some dope stuff. And check out that producer tips playlist on here as well. And also there'll be tons of links in the description for our loop packs. And this beat was primarily made of all of our products, and it sounds pretty dope. So anyway, keep making dope stuff, keep exploring, especially in the production process as well as your mixing and mastering. So, and the more that you learn, the more powerful you get as a producer. Peace, y'all. You know those drums are hard. And that 808's in the pack too.